Hello, hello, and Merry Christmas to everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started now. Coach Kevin here, and I'm going to go ahead and hop in and share my screen with you. First thing I want to share with you is houses I'm looking at. No, I'm just kidding. That just happened to be what was up there. Hang on a moment. This should come up for us. Please, pretty please. There we go. In case somebody is here today and it's your very first time with us, want to welcome you and let you know a few different things that will be relevant going forward. Number one, want to share with you that we have a Facebook group. This particular Facebook group is exactly the same name as the meetup group. It coincides with it. It's called I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. So the way you can find us is you can go into your own search on Facebook, start typing in, I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it, and you'll be able to find us. The other thing that you could do is you could go directly up here and type in facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. And the reason that we have this group, there's a few different reasons. Reason number one, if we have any announcements that we want to make that are relevant to the group, they'll be usually posted at the very top and pinned there. And right after that, when we have these particular Zoom meetings, I do my best to remember to record them so that you guys can go ahead and review it. So why would you want that? Well, one, if you attend a meeting and you really liked it, you can go review it if there were some things there that you want to remember or go through again. The other reason would be is if you missed one or two or a dozen or whatever. In other words, we might be in the process of going through some materials. Sometimes the material we're going through will take just one day. Sometimes it might take a couple days. Sometimes it might take a week or two. And as we go through this, you might want to use this to stay caught up or to get caught up if you happen to miss from time to time. The other thing is it gives you another place where we can interact with each other outside of the 45 minutes or so we have Monday through Friday. All right, next thing I want to share with you is we are in the process of going through a particular book right now. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and it's by an author named Joseph Murphy. Now, what I went ahead and did is I happen to have it on Kindle already. I probably have a paperback copy lying around somewhere. It's a book I've read probably 3 or 4 times in my lifetime, but it's been several years since I've read it. But I decided to pull it out, dust it off. It just felt inspired based upon the direction we've been going since November 5th when we started this meetup. We have been going through things. We went through the science of getting rich. We went through a couple of things that Bob Proctor shared. With me, I happen to have been a coach and facilitator for Bob Proctor. Now I'm independent, so I shared a few things there. We hopped into another book called Hidden Treasures, which taught us how the laws of the universe operate in relationship to attracting money and wealth into our lives. And then now, having learned those laws, we're learning actually how our mind works. Because if our programming in our mind doesn't line up with what it is that we want to receive in our life, it's always going to be sabotaging us at a subconscious level. However, if your subconscious mind, once you learn how to program it to cooperate with you, instead of being your enemy and getting in your way, it becomes one of your very best friends and helps you actually receive everything that you really want. So that's why we're going through The Power of Your Subconscious Mind right now. So I just typed it into Google to find a free copy that we could all go through together. I came up with this in the search is where I found the one I like the best. I know it seems like a funny place to find it, logocenter.org, www.logocenter.org, downloads, Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Anyhow, that's the one that I clicked on. Well, I clicked on several, but that's the one I found I liked the best. And the one that I chose that we're going through right now. And the cool thing about it is you don't even have to put in your name or email address. What will happen if you click that link is it will just come to the book. And then once you're in the book, you can choose the download and then just download it and save it to your phone or your computer or whatever it is that you're using. Or if you don't choose to do any of that and you choose not to download it, you can follow along with us on the screen. However, since we're 68 pages into this, if this is your first time with us, you really might want to go get a copy of this and get caught up. Or again, join our Facebook group. And once you join our Facebook group, you can get caught up that way. So the next thing I want to tell you is how we function and what it is that we're going to be doing today. So the first thing I'm going to do is take where we are in this book. We're going to read some of it. We're going to kind of take it apart together. I'll share commentary where I feel it could be helpful to everyone. And once we've gone through some of that reading, I like to leave about 10, 15 minutes at the end for you guys to share your comments and ask your questions. So you could share, whatever it is that you've learned today as a result of what we're doing. You can share your own experiences related to attracting money and wealth into your life. Or you can ask questions again about the material or any type of question related to manifesting money and wealth in your life. So that's what the direction we're going to go with this. If you type into chat anything, I'm just going to be honest with you, I'm not going to be paying attention to it. So what'll happen is when the time is right, we will come out of the screen share and then I will come talk with you guys. We will open it up for discussion. And at that point, we can come off mute and you guys can share whatever it is that you want to share or ask whatever questions you want to ask. All right. Now that we've kind of got that out of the way, we will go ahead and get going. Let me just get a quick sip of water first before we do that. Okay, the Baldwin technique. Charles Baldwin was a professor at the Rousseau Institute in France. He was a brilliant psychotherapist and a research director of the New Nancy School of Healing. He discovered that the best way to impress the subconscious mind is to enter into a drowsy, sleepy state or a state akin to sleep in which all effort was reduced to a minimum. Then the idea can be conveyed to the subconscious in a quiet, passive, receptive way by reflection. As Baldwin explained, a very simple way of securing this impregnation of the subconscious mind is to condense the idea, which is to be the object of suggestion, to sum it up in a brief phrase which can be readily given on the memory, and to repeat it over and over again as a lullaby. A few years ago, a young widow in Los Angeles found herself caught up in a prolonged and bitter family dispute. Her late husband had left her entire estate to her, but his sons and daughters from a previous marriage had filed suit to break the will. Her offers of settlement were spurned. When she asked for my help, I explained the Baldwin technique to her. I urged her to condense the idea of her need into a phrase of a few words that could be easily impressed on her memory. The phrase she found was, "It is finished in divine order." To her, those words meant that infinite intelligence, operating through the laws of her subconscious mind, would bring about a harmonious conclusion through the principle of harmony. Every night for 10 nights, she sat in an armchair, systematically relaxed her body, and entered into the sleepy state. Once in a sleepy state, she affirmed slowly, quietly, and feelingly the statement, "It is finished in divine order," over and over again. She found herself achieving a sense of inner peace and an all-pervading tranquility. Then she went off into her deep, normal sleep. In the morning of the 11th day, she woke up with a sense of well-being and a conviction that it was indeed finished. Her attorney called her that same day. The opposing attorney and his clients were willing to settle. A harmonious agreement was reached, and the lawsuit was dropped. The sleeping technique. When you enter into a sleepy, drowsy state, effort is reduced to a minimum. The conscious mind is submerged to a great extent when in a sleepy state. The reason for this is that the highest degree of outcropping of the subconscious occurs just prior to sleep and just after we awaken. In this state, the negative thoughts, which tend to neutralize your desire and so prevent acceptance by your subconscious mind, are no longer present. Suppose you want to get rid of a destructive habit. Assume a comfortable posture, relax your body, and be still. Get into a sleepy state, and in that sleepy state, say quietly over and over as a lullaby, I am completely free from this habit. Harmony and peace of mind reign supreme. Repeat these words slowly, quietly, and lovingly for 5 or 10 minutes, night and morning. Each time you repeat the words, the emotional value becomes greater. Let me repeat that to you. Each time you repeat the words, the emotional value becomes greater. When the urge comes to repeat the negative habit, repeat this formula out loud to yourself. By this means, you induce the subconscious to accept the idea and healing follows. The thank you technique. In the Bible, Paul recommends, and by the way, for those of you who weren't with us yesterday, you might want to go back because there were some additional techniques that Joseph Murphy was sharing. Just want to share that what we're sharing today is a continuation of some of the things that he shared that are being shared with us right now, as far as different techniques. And my recommendation, somebody will say, hey, so what's the best one? The one that resonates with you and the one that you do and the one that you follow through with. That's the best one. The thank you technique. In the Bible, Paul recommends that we make known our request with praise and thanksgiving. Some extraordinary results follow this simple method of prayer. The thankful heart is always close to the creative forces of the universe. Let me repeat that. The thankful heart is always close to the creative forces of the universe, causing countless blessings to flow toward it by the law of reciprocal relationship, based on a cosmic law of action and reaction. And if you go back to Hidden Treasures and what we studied then, that's exactly what we're talking about. Utilizing our programming of our subconscious mind, but also being in alignment with the laws that govern us receiving money and wealth in our life. Recently, a young mother told me of her experience with this technique. She said, I was out of work and broke with 3 small children to feed and clothe. I didn't know where to turn. Then I heard you explain that we should be thankful even before our prayers are answered. It was as if a light had gone on in my mind. I knew I had to try it. Every night and morning for about 3 weeks, the woman repeated the words, thank you, Father, for my wealth. She did this in a relaxed, peaceful manner and continued until the feeling or mood of thankfulness dominated her mind. She imagined she was addressing the infinite power and intelligence within, though she knew, of course, that she could not literally see the creative intelligence or infinite mind. She was seeing with her inner eye of spiritual perception, realizing that her thought image of wealth was the first cause relative to the money, position, and food she needed. Her thought feeling was the substance of wealth, untrammeled by antecedent conditions of any kind. By repeating, thank you, Father, over and over, the woman's mind and heart were lifted up to the point of acceptance. When the thoughts of lack, poverty, and distress came to her mind, she would say again, thank you, Father, as often as necessary. She knew that as she kept up the thankful attitude, she would recondition her mind to the idea of wealth. This is exactly what happened. This mother's prayer had an interesting sequel. Shortly after she began to pray in the way just described, she met a former employer on the street whom she had not seen in 5 years. The former employer offered her a responsible, well-paid position. He even advanced her a temporary loan to tide her over until her first paycheck. As she said to me, I'll never forget the amazing power of thank you, Father. It has worked wonders for me. The affirmative method. The effectiveness of an affirmation is determined largely by your understanding of the truth and meaning that underlie the words. In praying, use not vain repetition. The power of your affirmation lies in the intelligent application of definite and specific positives, Suppose a pupil adds 3 and 3 and puts down 7 on the blackboard. The teacher affirms with mathematical certainty that 3 and 3 are 6. Therefore, the child changes the figures accordingly. The teacher's statement did not make 3 and 3 equal 6. This was already a mathematical truth that in turn caused the child to rearrange the figures on the blackboard. It is abnormal to be sick. It is normal to be healthy. Health is the truth of your being. When you affirm health, harmony, and peace for yourself or another, and when you realize these are universal principles of your own being, you rearrange the negative patterns of your subconscious mind based on your faith and understanding of that which you affirm. The result of the affirmative process of prayer depends on conforming to the principles of life, regardless of appearances. Consider for a moment, there is a principle of mathematics, but none of error. There is a principle of truth, but none of dishonesty. There is a principle of intelligence, but none of ignorance. There is a principle of harmony, but none of discord. There is a principle of health, but none of disease. And there is a principle of abundance, but none of poverty. I chose to use the affirmative method when my sister was about to be operated on for the removal of gallstones in a hospital in England. Her diagnosis was based on the usual hospital tests and X-ray procedures. She asked me to pray for her recovery. I was over 6,000 miles away, but this did not disturb me. There is no time or space in the mind principle. Infinite mind or intelligence is present in its entirety at every point simultaneously. Several times a day, I withdrew all thought from the contemplation of my sister's symptoms and from the corporal personality altogether. Calmly, confidently, I affirmed as follows: this prayer is for my sister Catherine. She is relaxed and at peace, poised, balanced, serene, and calm. The healing intelligence of her subconscious mind that created her body is now transforming every cell, nerve, tissue, muscle, and bone of her being according to the perfect pattern of all organs lodged in her subconscious mind. Silently, quietly, all distorted thought patterns in her subconscious mind are removed and dissolved, and the vitality, wholeness, and beauty of the life principle are made manifest in every atom of her being. She is now open and receptive to the healing currents that are flowing through her like a river, restoring her to perfect health, harmony, and peace. All distortions and ugly images are now washed away by the infinite ocean of love and peace flowing through her, and it is so. At the end of 2 weeks, my sister had an examination. Her x-rays were negative. Her doctor admitted that she showed a remarkable healing and called off the scheduled surgery. To affirm is to state that it is so. As you maintain this attitude of mind as truth, or as true, regardless of all evidence to the contrary, you will receive an answer to your prayer. Your thought can only affirm, for even if you deny something, you're actually affirming the presence of what you deny. Repeating an affirmation, knowing what you are saying and why you're saying it, leads the mind to that state of consciousness where it accepts what you state as true. Keep on affirming the truths of life until you get the subconscious reaction that satisfies. The argumentative method. This method is just what its name implies. It stems from the amazing work of Dr. Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, a pioneer in mental and spiritual healing who lived and practiced in Belfast, Maine, over a century ago. He was really the father of psychosomatic medicine and the first psychoanalyst. He also had a remarkable capacity to diagnose clairvoyantly the cause of the patient's troubles, pains, and aches. In brief, the argumentative method was employed so successfully by Quimby, consists of spiritual reasoning. You convince the patient and yourself the sickness is due to false beliefs, groundless fears, and negative patterns lodged in the subconscious mind. You reason it out clearly in your mind and convince your patient that the disease or ailment is due only to a distorted, twisted pattern of thought that has taken form in the body. This wrong belief in some external power and external causes has now externalized itself as sickness, it can be changed by changing the thought patterns. You explain to the sick person, that the basis of all healing is a change of belief. You also point out that the subconscious mind created the body and all its organs. Therefore, it knows how to heal it, can heal it, and is doing so now as you speak. You argue in the courtroom of your mind that the disease is a shadow of the mind based on disease-soaked, morbid thought imagery. You continue to build up all the evidence you can muster on behalf of the healing power within, which created all the organs in the first place, and which has a perfect pattern of every cell, nerve, and tissue within it. Then you will render a verdict in the courthouse of your mind in favor of yourself and your patient. You liberate the sick one by faith and spiritual understanding. Your mental and spiritual evidence is overwhelming. Since there is but one mind, what you feel is true is made manifest in the experience of the patient, and a healing follows. The absolute method is like modern ultrasound therapy. Many people throughout the world practice this form of prayer treatment with wonderful results. The person using the absolute method mentions the name of the patient. Then she silently thinks of God and his qualities and attributes, such as God is all bliss, boundless love, infinite intelligence, all powerful, boundless wisdom, absolute harmony, indescribable beauty and perfection. As she quietly thinks along these lines, her consciousness is lifted into a new spiritual dimension. She feels the infinite ocean of God's love dissolving everything unlike itself in the mind and body of the patient for whom she is praying. She feels all the power and love of God are now focused on the patient. Whatever is bothersome or vexing is now completely neutralized in the presence of the infinite ocean of life and love. The absolute method of prayer might be compared to the latest developments in ultrasound therapy. These were explained to me recently by a distinguished physician in Los Angeles. The device she uses in her work generates powerful sound waves at extremely high frequencies. When these are focused on areas of the body where there are abnormal tissues, the affected cells resonate to the ultrasound and respond to it. To the degree that we rise in consciousness by contemplating the qualities and attributes of God, we generate spiritual waves of harmony, health, and peace. Those on whom these waves are focused then resonate to them and respond. Many remarkable healings have been achieved by this technique of prayer. Crippled person walks. Dr. Quimby often used the absolute method in the latter years of his healing career. One of his manuscripts describes how he healed a crippled woman. He was called on to visit this woman who was lame, aged, and bedridden. He states that her ailment was due to the fact that she was imprisoned by a creed so small and contracted that she could not stand straight upright and move about. She was living in the tomb of fear and ignorance. Because she took the Bible literally, it frightened her. In this tomb, Quimby said, was the presence and power of God trying to burst the bands, break through the bonds, and rise from the dead. When the woman would ask others for an explanation of some passage of the Bible, the answer would be a stone. Then she would hunger for the bread of life. Dr. Quimby diagnosed her case as a mind cloudy and stagnated due to the excitation and fear caused by the inability to see clearly the meaning of the passage of the Bible that she had been reading. This shows itself in her body by the heavy and sluggish feeling that would terminate as paralysis. At this point, Quimby asked her what was meant in the Bible verses. Yet a little while and I'm with you, and then I go to him that sent me. You shall seek me and shall not find me, and where I am, thither ye cannot come. She replied that it meant Jesus went to heaven. Quimby explained what it really meant by telling her that being with her a little while meant his explanation of her symptoms, feelings, and their causes. He had compassion and sympathy for her momentarily, but he could not remain in that mental state. The next step was to go to him that sent us. This, Quimby pointed out, was the creative power of God in all of us. Quimby immediately traveled in his mind and contemplated the divine ideal. That is, the vitality, intelligence, harmony, and power of God functioning in the sick person. This is why he said to the woman, "Therefore, where I go, you cannot come, for you are in your narrow, restricted belief, and I am in health." This prayer and explanation produced an instantaneous sensation, and a change came over her mind. She walked without her crutches. Quimby said it was one of the most singular of all his healings. She was, as it were, dead to error, and to bring her to life or truth was to raise her from the dead. Quimby quoted the resurrection of Christ and applied it to her own Christ or health. This produced a powerful effect on her. He also explained to her that the truth that she had accepted was the angel or idea that rolled away the stone of fear, ignorance, and superstition. This then released the healing power of God, which made her whole. The decree method. Power goes into our word according to the feeling and faith behind it. When we realize the power that moves the world is moving on our behalf and is backing up our word, our confidence and assurance grow. You do not try to add power to power. There must be no mental striving, coercion, force, or mental wrestling. Let me repeat that. Okay. You do not try to add power to power. There must be no mental striving, coercion, force, or mental wrestling. A young woman used the decree method on a young man who was constantly phoning her, pressing her for dates. She found it very difficult to get rid of him. When he began to show up at her workplace, she realized that she had to do something drastic at once. Several times a day, she put herself into a quiet state and repeatedly decreed as follows: "I release J.R. unto God. He is in his true place at all times. I am free and he is free. I now decree that my words go forth into infinite mind, and it brings it to pass. It is so." According to her, the young man immediately disappeared from her life. She has never seen him since. She says, "It was as if the ground swallowed him up." Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, and the light shall shine upon thy ways. Serve yourself with scientific truth. Be a mental engineer and use tried and proven techniques in building a grander and greater life. Your desire is your prayer. Picture the fulfillment of your desire now and feel its reality, and you will experience the joy of the answered prayer. Let me repeat that. Picture the fulfillment of your desire now and feel its reality, and you will experience the joy of the answered prayer. Desire to accomplish things the easy way with the sure aid of mental science. You can build radiant health, success, and happiness by the thoughts you think in the hidden studio of your mind. Experiment scientifically until you personally prove that there is always a direct response from the infinite intelligence of your subconscious mind to your conscious thinking. Feel the joy and restfulness in foreseeing the certain accomplishment of your desire. Any mental picture you have in your mind is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Let me repeat. Feel the joy and restfulness. How's that sound, everyone? Feel the joy and restfulness. It's not forcing and pushing and striving and working hard. Feel the joy and restfulness in foreseeing the certain accomplishment of your desire. Any mental picture you have in your mind is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. A mental picture is worth 1,000 words. Your subconscious will bring to pass any picture held in the mind backed by faith. Avoid all effort or mental coercion in prayer. Get into a sleepy, drowsy state and lull yourself to sleep, feeling and knowing that your prayer is answered. Remember that the thankful heart is always close to the riches of the universe. To affirm is to state that it is so. And as you maintain this attitude of mind as true, regardless of all evidence to the contrary, you will receive an answer to your prayer. Generate waves of harmony, health, peace by thinking the love and the glory of God. What you decree and feel as true will come to pass. Decree harmony, health, peace, and abundance. Okay, that is a good place, I believe, for us to stop the reading and start on with our discussion here. All right, so just a quick reminder, this is an opportunity for you guys to share, and ask questions, the group or of myself. This is your opportunity to share based upon what we're studying right now and going through, or anything related to adding more money and wealth into your life. And if you've had success utilizing intentionally the law of attraction to bring more money and wealth into your life, and you would like to share those experiences, this would also be a good time to do that. So, all right, here's your opportunity to share. I know we're a little bit smaller in numbers today, but there's still plenty of us to have a good discussion. So who's willing to share or ask the first question?
Merry Christmas, Kevin and everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just joined, so I missed the reading. Dang it. Everybody's been calling and texting, and I'm like, oh, I'm like trying to wish them Merry Christmas back. But then in my back of my subconscious is like, no, you got to tell them goodbye. You got to go listen to Kevin. This is important.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, the good
So,
thing is it's recorded, so I'll try and get it up early today in the Facebook group. So if you want to
yeah,
go
I
on.
still need to join the Facebook group. I haven't done that yet, but I need to. I'm not a big Facebook person, so I just find it very distracting. And so and Instagram and all that stuff, just because I find it to be such a time sucker.
It can be. It can be, for sure.
And so when I'm in there, then it just feels like, oh my gosh, and this and that, like different people sending me things throughout like the week. And then I usually ignore it. I don't ever go into it. So then I don't have to know what it is. And so, but once I'm in there, then I'm like, I feel drawn to, I guess, in a way to it, because now I'm in it. So my way of just dealing with this is not to go there at all. So avoid it. But that's why.
I understand.
My question though, I don't know if it's not related to the reading, because I don't really know what you guys covered, was this actually was a question this morning when I woke up. I was thinking to myself, how do I know? I know we talked about intuition and how, you should go by how you feel and the message that you're getting subconsciously and things like that. I was wondering, how do I know if I'm going with the intuition or if I'm going with emotion? Because I can be emotional person,
Sure.
and so I'm a very sensitive person. So it's sometimes hard to know if the feeling that I'm getting, for instance, I've been debating if I want to buy some Apple stocks, and I bought some earlier and it did well. And I'm like, well, I want to buy more. And, I have this feeling like, well, I should get more, or buy more. And I'm like, wondering, am I reacting based on the emotions of the positive results? Or am I reacting on intuition?
Okay.
So how do I know the difference? I guess. Is my emotions leading me, or is my intuition leading me? So thank you.
You're welcome. So here's what I might do in your situation right now. And I know everybody, kind of speaks with God and prays a little bit differently. But you could say, so I'm going to say it kind of the way I would say it, then you can put it in your own words, right? I would say, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for sharing, that the last time I bought Apple stock, it went up. I appreciate the abundance, prosperity that I enjoy as a result of making that purchase. Right now, I'm feeling like I would like to do that again. And I just want to ask, I want to ask thee if that is the correct move to make. If it is incorrect, help me forget about it. If it is correct, help me to take the action and leave it in your hands to multiply whatever it is that I invested.
That sounds very good.
Something to that effect, right?
Yeah, that sounds very good.
Just in other words, you're saying it feels right. Just if I'm going to make an error, stop me from making the error, just help me forget about it and not do it. And if it
Exactly.
is what I ought to do, then help me go forward and still trust you. And you know what? You might buy it and go forward and trust him. And for whatever reason, the stock may not go up right then. I, I don't know what's going to happen because I'm not you and I didn't receive the same promptings per se. You might be doing it because it went up, and God trusts us to do a lot of things on our own too. I mean, if you did something and it went up before, as long as you're not counting on it always being the thing that's going to make your life work, then that's good. Let God be the one who utilizes any channel to bring you good, and be open to any channel that he divulges to you to receive your good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you receive good through something, as long as you don't make it your God now, like, oh, it's the stock market's now my God, right?
Right, right.
As long as
No,
we don't try
absolutely
and
not.
replace God with a methodology or a business or something like that,
Right,
then you're fine.
right. Absolutely. That makes sense. I'll definitely pray about it. I've been contemplating it for sure, and I will pray some more. I've been praying a little bit about it, but I will definitely pray some more before I decide kind of how, what, to see if that helps guide me a little bit better. But thank you very much, Kevin.
You're welcome. I would pray for it as if you've made the decision to buy it.
Mm-hmm,
And, again, help me to forget about it if it's not meant to be.
mm-hmm.
And if I am supposed to do it, I'll go ahead and move forward. In other words, don't sit there and go, well, I'm praying to know more, but you haven't made the commitment to take action. Make the commitment to take action on the yes or the no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have more of the commitment to take action, but I will pray. That's kind of where I'm at, is that last night I almost not purchased it, but I was trying to figure out how to get the money to purchase it.
Yeah.
Because I don't, I had to figure out my accounting on my budget and kind of how am I going to come up with another $2,000 or $3,000 to buy some Apple stocks. So yeah. So I was trying to look at that
What?
yesterday.
So is
Yeah.
the reason you want to buy Apple stock, are you going to hold on to it? Or are you trying to like buy it and watch it double? Or what are you trying to accomplish?
I am trying to I guess I am doing a little bit of a risky situation with it. I don't have enough money to really buy the number of shares to make a difference in my portfolio, like to be able to really so what I'm doing is I'm trying to do options, and so that's what I did. I bought some options in Apple.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't require as much money, and
Yeah.
so I did that, and it went pretty well.
Okay.
And I've been following the stock for a while on my watch list. Just kind of started doing that, just kind of learning about options. And I
Okay.
I don't have and I understand not to, I know it's gambling, and I'm not trying to gamble my life away. I do have
Mhm.
401k that I do pay myself on in mutual funds that I've been doing for years. So that's not
Okay.
money that I play with at all. This is just like a side, and that's money that I can't really touch till I'm 65 anyways, and it's money that I've been growing for since I was 20s,
Okay.
and working and putting that into my 401k. But I just wanted to do something on the side because I need to raise some money more to do other things right now.
Okay.
And obviously with the 401k, like I said, you can't touch that. So
Yeah.
I'm just not going there.
Well,
I'm forgetting
that
about that money and focusing more on like
right.
other things that I need, like to purchase. And I'm using options as my method to do that.
I'm not going to get in a long discussion on
Hmm.
401k and what you can and can't do and should and shouldn't do. I would
Hmm.
just tell you that your premise is false, but based on the information you have, it's true.
Hmm.
Uh, 401ks and retirement accounts can be used all different kinds of ways legally, without any type of penalty. But anyhow, that's not,
Hmm.
I'm not giving it, I'm not going to give that kind of training on here.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
but what I would tell you is, what are the things that you want? It's what are the purchases that you would like to make that you can't make until you have more money?
One of the immediate purchases that I need right now is I just well, I think last time I spoke for the first time or so, I did say that I just got a divorce.
Okay,
And so I moved into a condo that I remodeled. And so it kind of
okay,
ate up all the cash that I had.
okay,
And it was a rental, so I needed to remodel it. I was moving from a home, and I have 3 kids, so
okay,
I did that, and now I don't have much furniture. And
okay,
I'm starting over. I'm not taking anything from the divorce. I'm literally walking out with nothing, zero, like except for my clothes. I'm
okay,
not taking anything. I don't want to take anything, and it's an intentional thing. I kind of want to start over.
okay,
I don't want to bring anything with me, no bed, no nothing, no pots, no pans, no nothing. I'm
okay,
literally going out like with nothing except for my personal items, my clothes and
okay,
things.
okay,
And so I've been purchasing things, but I'm just not getting there quickly enough. And so it's like I really want to be able to purchase items that I need for my home, my new
okay,
condo. And
okay,
so I feel like I'm gonna have to move in there with very little and just, it might take me some time to be able to kind of feel like I have a home, like a setup, a
mhm,
settled place where I right now have a couch, I don't have a coffee table, I don't
yeah,
have
I get it,
pots and pans.
totally.
So basically that's the kind of immediate purchase. So I have immediate purchases like that, but I
Okay,
also have long-term purchases that I'm looking at. So
okay, so let me share with you, rather than waiting for money
mhm.
so that you can go therefore purchase what you want, then decide what you want. Have you decided what it is you want to purchase? And I don't mean, well, yeah, I want a table. I mean, have you decided how
Yeah, I have a
the place is
list.
going to look?
Yes, I have a list and I know exactly the items and
Okay,
the things that I want, and I've looked at them and I know what I want and
okay,
everything. So,
perfect.
mhm,
So what you should do with that list is imprint it into your mind. It's great that you have it written down.
mhm,
Imprint it into your mind, and then that 10, 5, 10, 15 minutes before you go to bed and right when you wake up, and
mhm,
if you can do it multiple times throughout the day to the points, live in your house as if it's completely furnished already and you're already enjoying everything that you're thinking you want to purchase.
mhm,
Okay. Here's why I would do it that way versus focusing on making the money to purchase everything.
mhm,
Because God can open up more channels for you to receive it.
mhm,
He can open up, he could use the stock market absolutely 100%. You could go do option trading and hit it, hit big enough for not long enough to buy the stuff.
mhm.
You also have unlimited ways that God can provide for you if you leave it open to God to do it. And
Right.
so for instance, it was something that I have or that I received and I didn't pay for it. Um, I was given a car. And I wasn't given somebody's hand-me-down, so to speak, okay? And I didn't put a ton of focus on it. It was actually something, it wasn't like the car of my dreams kind of thing. It was just a car that I'm like, "That's really nice." But I liked it enough that for whatever silly reason, which is a great reason because it happened, I saw myself driving it, and I saw
Mhm,
myself enjoying it and using it and having a good time with it, and I didn't do that very many times with this particular car. I tend to like exotic type cars, so I like
mhm.
Porsches and Ferraris and stuff like that.
Me too. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, me
This
too.
this wasn't one of those exactly, okay,
Mhm,
but it was a very nice car.
mhm,
It was a BMW M650i convertible. Okay, so it's a car that would be 100,000 plus.
mhm,
And I went through the motion of what I'm telling you to do, where I felt it and enjoyed it in my subconscious. And I only did it half a dozen times, really, to be honest. And then I let it go and didn't think about it. And I know it was later and it wasn't like immediate. It wasn't immediate need either. But a couple years down the road later, I'm in business and I have a business partner with some of the things I'm doing. And this person went out and bought that car. Now, let me explain something about that. That person, we had never discussed that car before. He didn't even discuss that he was wanting to go out and get a car. And it's fine. It wasn't like money taken out of the business that, belonged in the business. It was his own money to do whatever he wanted to do. But he went and bought the car, not like literally, it was the same color. It was the exact same year as the one that I'd seen. there was everything about the car was exactly the car that I had visualized because I'd seen it in a picture before, and I just saw myself using it. He went out and bought it, and I didn't tell him the story either that I'd been visualizing or thought about it. I just thought, oh, that's cool. And he came, and it's like, oh yeah, what do you think? I'm like, it's awesome. I think it's cool. I think it's a great car. And it's like, yeah, me too. I like it. About less than 3 months later, he comes to me and goes, Kevin, I don't know why, but this car just doesn't, it's not me. It just isn't me. I don't know why. He goes, but when I think about the car, it feels like you. And he goes, so I just went out and bought a Prius the other day, but I didn't go sell the BMW. He goes, if you like, you can go just drive the BMW as long as you pay for the gas and maintenance. There you go. It's yours. Use it as long as you want until you decide to go do something different. And so essentially I got to use the car for 9 months and I didn't go buy the car.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I was open to receiving instead of saying, I got to come up with the money to go buy this exact thing I want. God in the universe found another way to get, literally somebody else went and bought something that they didn't really even want. I mean, they didn't know that at the time. And then they go give it to me,
Right.
So,
I've thought about just moving out anyways, and just literally living there and just just live there and just let it happen slowly or however God wants it to happen.
Well, it doesn't even have to be slow. Just decide, you've already decided the things you want. So now in your imagination, now in your visualization, picture yourself in the place as if it's already done and decorated and the way you want it. And thank God that the ways were provided to receive those things to furnish and decorate your house beautifully. And, do it that way. That's also happened to me too in relationship to houses and places to live. A lot of times the places I've lived lately, in the last few years, they've usually become nearly furnished.
Yeah, I definitely do picture it all the time because I'm a planner, so I have it all planned out. I know exactly where everything is going to sit, like where I want everything laid out, like where I want my desk to be, where I want, all the different pieces that I need and where I want it to go and everything and the color schemes and all of that figured out. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stick with that. And as far as Apple stock goes, say the prayer, see if it's what you're guided to go do.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm taking everybody's time today.
No, it's okay. I'll stick around. I'll stick around. So, any additional comments or questions?
Kevin, can you talk a little bit about, I'm going two different directions. One is letting go of negative thoughts. I mean, I do the best I can to stay positive and do mantras and think of that, but for some reason, some challenges of the past will creep in my mind. And then you also, with that, talk about, that transition. I know on our call the other day, you talked about transition to self-employment. So poor choices, unemployment, and consistent employment have put me in a precarious situation. I'm building now rather than flourishing. And so my last day of work was January of earlier this year.
Okay.
I'm well situated, so I'm not hurting at all. And a friend has offered an opportunity, another senior leadership role, VP and general counsel for a company. I'll make what I'm accustomed to earning, but that's not where my heart is. It's like the safe route.
Yeah, I got it.
The real me loves the real estate stuff, but I'm getting the pressure from the home front saying, yeah, you go out on that phase, it's no guarantee. You've got this guaranteed opportunity. And I just feel that, I'm looking at my past mistakes saying, Donna, this is what I really want to do. But here's this safe, thing right out there. I could just jump on the safe thing.
Okay. Yeah. So let me share part of my story because it kind of unfolds like you're talking about. Okay. So this goes back to early 06, February of 06. Okay. Because the last day I had a job and worked for anybody was March 31st of 06. So I haven't worked for anybody since then, and my average work week is about 15 hours or so, ever since then. But I had to go through something like you're going through. Now, I didn't have, I mean, I knew I could go get a job if I wanted to, but here was the scenario. I was, for the longest time, I'd been focused on being taught how to be an entrepreneur and how to be a real estate investor. That's what I wanted to learn too.
Yep.
I wanted to understand how to run business and all this. And I was given the opportunity to get to know Robert Kiyosaki pretty well because I was living near him at the time. And I was good at building a sphere of influence. And that sphere of influence, I called it a cash flow club, but we had 1,800 members in the Phoenix area. As a result of that, Robert reached out to me and asked me to attend a partners meeting that happened in December of 05. He called me in November, and then the meeting was in December. And at that point, I knew that I knew enough about being an entrepreneur and business owner that I should be getting better results than I was getting.
Yeah.
And that's where you and I think are on that wavelength, but it just wasn't happening quite for me. But I started doing something a little bit prior to this, and I'd go back a few more months. I had to go back to September. I went back to September, and I have to just say I was guided. I was ready, probably like why you're here right now. I realized that, learning more techniques was not getting me anywhere. It's like I could probably teach a seminar on how to do a lot of this stuff, but I wasn't getting the results with it, right? And I'm like, there's something else here. And it was more of a personal development than a systems related kind of thing that I needed to go through. And I had never heard words like law of attraction. I had never heard things like subconscious mind. You know what I mean? I just didn't know how this stuff worked. But I ran across little bit articles and audios and video things of people talking a little bit about this. And around the time, just as Robert was having me do this, and I came on board and worked together with their team. And when I say I worked, it was in a consulting capacity, and I wasn't like a member of the team in the sense like I was an employee. I didn't want to be an employee, but I was brought in for that partners meeting. And then after the partners meeting up through May of the following year, they kept wanting to pick my brain and, hey, can you help me at this time? And so I did that stuff, and obviously I got the benefit of seeing the inside workings of their company at the same time, which helped me. But what made the bigger difference is I came across the person, and it wasn't, and I want to always be careful when I say, hey, it's this seminar, this thing, this, that, or the other, because everybody, his path is going to be a little bit different. It's either like, oh, if you're a real estate investor and that's where you made the money, that's what I should go do. Yes or no, I don't know. Okay. You could run all kinds of different businesses. It's not the vehicle, it's the programming. Once the programming changes, your vehicle works. Okay. So what I went through is the personal development a little bit. Then I went through a seminar in February of 2006 that was around a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And it was taught by a gal named Leslie Householder, who I'd become friends with back in December. So I actually got to know her ahead of the seminar. And she was a coach for Bob Proctor. And she'd been trained to do, these seminars and workshops. So I went to this particular one in February. At that particular workshop, just before the few days before that workshop, I had my entrepreneur club thing going on. And somebody showed up there and they wanted to share with me, which everybody did because I had this big club. So it's like, they want to share opportunities with me because they're all going to help me get rich, right? Hey, you got this sphere of influence. Let me do this and share, and then I'll help make you rich. And I usually turned everybody down that did that type of thing. But this person came, shared with me an opportunity to learn how to invest in real estate, which it intrigued me, but I'm like, I've already done this kind of stuff. Well, okay. A few days later, a week later, whatever it was, I'm sitting in the Science of Getting Rich seminar, and I got this strong impression that I was supposed to go back to that other person, ask more, and take advantage of that opportunity. Okay. And interestingly enough, we're at some kind of break. It was lunch or dinner or whatever. And the thing is, I knew at that time, and I didn't have it in the bank, I was going to have to come up with about $20,000 to take advantage of that opportunity. So what I ended up doing is, my wife was like, I'm like, so how are you feeling? My wife was at the seminar with me too. How are you feeling about this stuff? She goes, I don't know why, but I feel like you're supposed to do this.
Wow.
And that was good and bad at the same time. That was wonderful because I tried things in the past that weren't working out. So I figured I was going to get an earful, right?
Right.
You want to do what? And it costs how much? And, all this. It was wonderful to finally feel like, wow, she feels the same way about this. So it felt good and scary at the same time, because now if I screw it up, I can't blame it on her and her attitude about what I've tried to do, right? So anyhow, I finished up the seminar, and I was given, after the 3 days, we were given a self-study version of the same seminar, and I dove into that thing. And I went through it literally 2-3 hours a day over the next 2.5 months, reprogramming myself. At the same time, this opportunity that came, it was going to cost me, about $20,000 to get this training so I could then become a real estate investor. Well, the thing that was unique about it too is if you were a student, you could also sell it. That's the way it was designed. It had a direct sales component to it, which I had zero interest in whatsoever.
Yeah.
So all you guys are hearing a cool story, but this is totally a true story. So here I am. I don't have the money to do it, but I made up my mind because of that seminar. I knew I was supposed to do it.
Okay.
So I'm like, so when they asked me, are you going to do this? The people that introduced me to the opportunity, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I don't know how I'm going to do it right now. Well, I got guided. And again, I like sharing the whole story, but I also don't like sharing the story because people think, oh, I do that. If I do that way, it's going to happen that way for me. Right. Yeah. That's the part where I always get a little concerned with people, because people don't catch the whole background of what's going on. They just go, oh, you did this thing or that thing. I had somebody within my sphere of influence I didn't know very well, and they didn't know me very well. But at the time, am I froze or you guys froze?
No, you're fine.
You guys can hear me okay? Okay, I think Mikhail froze.
It's Mikhail froze.
Darn, I hope he does. Hope he can come back and hear what you back, Mikhail?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm like, if you froze, then it's I got it. All right. So there was somebody in my sphere of influence, didn't know very well. This goes back to the whole retirement account discussion, because you can borrow money from your retirement account.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Self-direct retirement. There's a zillion things you can do. Anyhow, I asked a person who was getting crappy returns in their retirement account if they'd be willing to fund me in my new real estate venture, which essentially was getting trained how to do it. And I expected them to say no, to be honest. But I'm like, what the heck, So I asked, are you still there? Are you frozen again?
I can hear you.
Okay, as long as you can hear, that's all right.
I can hear you. Sorry.
All right. You could even, maybe it might help if you turn off your camera. That might help us bandwidth.
Okay.
I mean, I like seeing you, but okay. It might help with there we go. So anyhow, this person was basically said, well, what's your plan? I said, well, I've got a business plan. I'll put, he's like, all right, put it together, show me, and I'll decide. Well, I didn't ask him for $20,000. I asked him for $38,000. Okay. This person knew me, but they didn't know me that well. I expected no. And essentially the deal we made with each other was this. He would lend me the $38,000. I'll tell you why 38 in a moment. $38,000. And I didn't have to make a payment back to him for 6 months, but it all had to be paid back in 18 months. Okay. So we made the deal. I got the money. Why the additional $18,000? Because my take-home pay was about $6,000 a month at the time, and I wanted to quit my job and go full-time. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I wanted. And my wife basically gave me permission, you know, as long if you don't make something happen in 3 months, you got to go back and get a job again. Now I knew I could get a job similar to what I was doing at the time because I knew I was good enough to do it. I just never wanted to do it. So here I am, $38,000. I have 3 months to make something happen. I don't have to have it all paid, but I don't have a payment for 6 months, but I have to have it all paid back in 18 months. So, but it was all being led and inspired. It was so interesting because the guy said yes. I mean, logically, the guy should have said no, but he said yes. And he charged 12%, which I happily paid him when all was said and done. He got his 12%. And it wasn't 12% annualized, it was 12% on the money itself, even if I paid it back early. So I ended up, now I go and I'm like, I'm ready for this training. I've got my money. I actually signed up for the training and everything. And I'm like, okay, when's class? Well, at the time, all the class, it wasn't online or anything like that. It was live. And what I didn't realize at the time, because I didn't pay close enough attention, is it was live and they held it once a quarter in every given region of the country. So once a quarter, it would come to my area and then I could attend it live. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's, you know, so when's class? Like, well, we just had class. Somebody's got noise.
I like being mobile.
Okay, there we go. That probably did it. So I asked them when the next class is. They go, well, they just had class 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, what does that mean? Well, that means the next class isn't going to happen for 2.5 months. You guys hear where I'm at right now?
Yep, I can hear you well.
I know I have, and I don't mean just hear me, like,
Yeah.
I had 3 months to make something happen.
Yes.
Right. I owe this money. I now owe $38,000 to somebody's retirement account. I thought my idea was I was going to jump in and do something. And within 2 to 3 months, you know, I would hopefully have a transaction that had completed, especially since it's real estate investing. It doesn't have to go as long as a typical transaction. And I felt I was smart enough to learn it. And because of the seminar, I felt guided by intuition, revelation, inspiration to do it, which my wife and I both received that guidance. And what ended up happening was all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, you mean I can't even take classes for the next 2.5 months and learn this stuff? So I'm gonna have a week of learning and a week to try and make money. That's not gonna work. I am so screwed. But then I ended up feeling that peace again. I'm like, there must be something about this. Well, they said, look, remember we said, if you become a student of the program, if you sell the program, they will pay you a referral fee. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, what I did is I found out who some of the people are who are going to be the teachers and instructors for this education I was going to receive. And I recognized a couple of them. And I'm like, holy crap, how did you get them to actually be willing to teach? I mean, I would have paid $20,000 for just one of those people because I knew who it was. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I changed my mind and I'm like, well, when that class opens up 2.5 months from now, I'm going to have people sitting beside me that I'm bringing to that class because they decided to become students too. To make what could be a long story short, I ended up by the time I took my class, not only did I have that $38,000 paid back, but I had almost $10,000 to use. So I literally made 40 some odd, almost $50,000 in 3 months by enrolling other people to come to the class that I went to because of the referral fees. And then I took the classes, and over the next 18 months, I did 7 real estate investing transactions. They were all flips. I was a partner on all of them. They weren't big dollar figures. And I made about $80,000 over that 18 months on the real estate. On the referral side of the business, I got so good at it that I made $400,000 over the next 8 months. And I never had any inclination or desire to do it. Matter of fact, if I thought that that's what I was signing up for, I would have said no. But God knew what he was doing with me. And the reason I said no is because 100 years prior to that, I'd been in Amway and I sucked at it. So I thought this was just another version of an Amway with real estate investing as their product, which it really wasn't, but that was my programming. That's why there was no way I was ever going to go do that. So the long story short is it got me my freedom, and I've had my freedom ever since. I've been an entrepreneur and I've had additional businesses since then. And I've probably helped over 300 people become very successful real estate investors over the years. Not so much because I went and trained them, but because I actually convinced them to go through the training I went through. So, it's just how it turned out. It turned out very well. But the reason I wanted to share the whole story is it's about following that inspiration, revelation, intuition. But the only reason I was able to do that successfully is I was in the process of reprogramming my subconscious mind.
Okay.
And the reason I had so much success financially right up front as a result of doing that was because now the blocks in my brain, I'd never earned a six-figure income before. Well, I no longer had a block of six-figure income. I reprogrammed myself for two things. One, to live the kind of life I wanted to live, and also to have as much time as I wanted to live it. And it just so happened that $400,000 was the dollar figure that made that happen for that year. I never set a $400,000, income as a goal. Matter of fact, I made more than that because of the other 80,000 over 18 months. So nearly $500,000. It was the life I wanted to live and the reprogramming that I did. And then all the stuff that I already had done or knew how to do from the past started to work for me. That's why I'm adamant with everybody that it's like, look, you've got to do that retraining. The other thing I have to add to that is Leslie was also my coach. So not only did I go through the seminar, but I had that relationship. So I was also being coached too in this reprogramming process. If people want to go try and do everything on their own and be cheap about it, I would rather go make $400,000 in 8 months than $4,000 in 8 months.
Yeah.
So, but most people are afraid. I was afraid too, but it felt like I was supposed to do it. So I did it, and that's why it worked. That was where I hit my terror barrier that everybody runs into. Of course, there's a terror. I mean, $38,000 I didn't have owed back to somebody at 12% that had to be paid in full in 18 months. And I'm starting this new venture. I had to really believe in myself. And I had to really believe in the process of the law of attraction and the programming I was going through. But I had this inner peace that would come up when I would ask about it. Even during the times where I was getting, felt a little afraid or concerned, I would come back to that feeling of inner peace that I had originally felt and said, look, I already have my answer. So this is going to work out. I just don't know how.
Okay.
So to answer your question about your, taking the job or not, if the job you're being offered is going to get in the way of you moving forward, because emotionally it's going to do that, or because of time, then you might want to stick with what you were planning on doing, which is the real estate. If you can do both, and it's going to only augment what you're going to do and relieve the stress that you might have, then you might want to do that. So I put myself in a position, again, guided by intuition, inspiration, revelation, it wasn't guided by logic. I promise you that. Okay. Because there was no logic to it, other than I believed that I could learn how to be a real estate investor successfully. But I ended up being so successful at the referral side that I spent less time on flipping homes. I spent more time on enrolling students.
Okay. I appreciate it.
So long story for you guys.
Okay.
But now you guys know a little more about me, but that doesn't mean you go do exactly what I did. That's always my caveat.
Okay.
But the other part is too, you can go much faster if you have somebody like me helping you as a coach than you're going to go if you try and figure it out on your own. I will throw that little plug in.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I know we're over, but we only got 2 questions and comments. Does anybody have any questions today? Or
Yeah, I have I have something I want to say.
Okay, cool.
I've wanted for a long time to buy a house, but I think my income is not sufficient, and I have zero saved for a down payment.
Okay,
So, but I'm paying down some debt, which is
Okay.
good, and I have very good credit, excellent credit,
okay,
but that's not enough. So I'm getting some debt paid down, and right now I think that for me to buy a house right now, it's not viable. So I'm just in a holding pattern. I'm waiting, and I
Okay.
just think it's something that I don't want to force it,
uh-huh,
but I still want to buy a house, and I want
Okay.
to invest in real estate like what you're doing.
okay.
Um,
Do you want to buy a house or do you want to have a house? And I mean, that's yours. I don't mean a rental.
Both. I want both.
Well, you want a house of your own.
Yes.
The reason I said that, okay, is again, I want to leave all channels open to you,
Mhm.
not just that you have to buy it.
Well, actually, let me back up a minute. I want to live in a larger apartment. The apartment that I'm living in I'm grateful, of course. It's just very small. I'd like to
Okay.
move into a larger one, or better yet, a house to live in.
Okay,
And I want to increase my income,
okay,
and I think investing in real estate is viable. I'm just not able to do that right now.
okay. So let me go back to what I was saying. The key here to having what we want is one, deciding, which is good because it sounds like you know pretty strongly what you want.
Hmm.
That's good. Don't be stuck on a channel of how you receive it, right?
Hmm.
Don't try and tune in. I'm going to make up a number. I don't know what your radio stations are over there. Don't get stuck on channel 104.7
Hmm.
as the only way to receive what you're asking for.
Hmm.
Be open to the myriad of channels that are available to receive what you're asking for, because
Hmm.
God has no limit on channels to give you what you want, and the universe doesn't either. So stay open to that. So how do you make
Hmm.
sure that this actually happens for you? You decide what your house is going to be like,
Hmm.
and to very clear. I mean, as clear as you can get. You can pick a specific one, but be open to that or something better even. Okay, in case, because you can't force somebody to sell you something or give you something that belongs to
Hmm.
someone else. But you can possibly receive that exact same thing, like I received that car, or
Hmm.
you could receive something, even better. So what you do is you decide what this living situation for you looks like and feels like, smells like, tastes like, all your senses, and you imagine with your senses that you're doing all of those things. When you take that 5
Hmm.
to 15 minutes in the morning and 5 to 15 when you go to bed, kind of like what was being
Hmm.
talked about today, and additional times throughout the day if you can find them for yourself. When you take the time to do that, live in your house. And
Hmm.
if your house has a particular type of kitchen, in your imagination, go make breakfast, lunch, or dinner, right?
Hmm.
In your imagination, go lie down in your bed, right? In your
Okay.
imagination, go watch TV sitting on your couch. In your
Hmm.
imagination, if you have friends you would have over, bring those friends into your house and have a party for Christmas or New Year's or whatever. Live in the house in your imagination right now,
Hmm.
exactly using it the same way you would be using it if you already have it.
Okay.
What I didn't get to in my story, but I'll get to this part of my story because it's like, oh, you went to a seminar, blah, blah, blah. Well, what led me to the seminar and led to my story happening is I had been, even prior to that seminar, because I started that personal development path in September, and that seminar was February, was what I had been doing was some self-talk.
Mm.
Self-talk was essentially this. It was kind of out there in the sense of it kind of almost didn't make any sense, but I like NBA basketball. Okay.
Mhm.
I am not
I've heard of self-talk.
Yeah. Well, affirmation. I love NBA basketball. I don't play NBA
Mhm.
basketball. I don't have any friends that are NBA basketball players, but I like it. So I was watching it. And back in that time, the top players in the NBA, like the top contracts, I think Joe Johnson had just signed like the first $20 million a year contract or something like that.
Mhm.
And what I convinced myself of was not that I'd make $20 million a year, but what I convinced myself is, hey, look, these guys are out there doing absolutely 100% what they want to do. And they're getting paid incredibly to do it. And they're doing it part-time.
Mhm.
I mean, that's really what it was, right? They're doing what they love doing. They do it on a part-time basis, and they get paid, amounts of money that are multiples and multiples and multiples of what everybody else typically gets paid to do their work. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be an NBA basketball player. I get it. I'm not designed with those tools, and age-wise, even if I had them, I'm at the time, I'm 52 now. So go back 15 years, right? I was not the time to start becoming an NBA player. But what I did is I just convinced my subconscious, like, I should be able to live the way I want to live, make enough money to do it, and have the time necessary to do it. But I use the NBA as kind of my thing. I'm like, if these guys are able to do it, the only difference between them and me is the skill they have to be an NBA player. But take that part away, and there are people in the world that literally work less than 20 hours a week and that make six-figure incomes and have time to do what they want to do. And so I just visualized myself living the life I wanted to live. And then I was sucked into the seminar and the opportunity that was provided a week before the seminar. Then I went to but all of that happened to bring me to the point where I ended up making the $400,000 and ended up working about 15 hours a week average that year to receive it. So by you imagining your house the way you want it to be and imagining your life the way you want it to be, trust that God in the universe will then inspire you to take whatever step you need to take to go do it. They'll give you that. They won't give you the entire, you won't be handed like a roadmap, like you wake up one day and you have this stack of papers that says, okay, here for the next 20 years, here's how you're going to live your life. They're going to say, go do this. You're going to feel a prompting to do something. And it may be comfortable or it may be uncomfortable. It's the comfort you'll feel or not feel is going to be based upon, is it in alignment with what your subconscious agrees with, or is it out of alignment with what your subconscious agrees with right now? And for me, the discomfort came in taking my path as I was doing different things, like the $38,000, like the commitments, all of that was uncomfortable. Okay. That wasn't normal. And my subconscious mind screaming at me, you're a bozo. I mean, how are you going to do this? But I know I received that inspiration at that seminar that said, take advantage of this opportunity. And I thought I was going to make all that money through flips and stuff like that. And I made almost all the money, the majority of the money actually came from enrolling people as students. God knew that was the path. If somebody would have said, hey, you want to come work for us and we're going to teach real estate investing and you're going to help enroll students into doing this, and I would have said, no way, no how. I wouldn't have ever borrowed $38,000. I wouldn't have ever signed up for the educate. I wouldn't have done any of that. But God knew what was going to get me ultimately to what I wanted, which was the lifestyle that I was hoping for at the time. And that's changed over time. Okay. But what I wanted at that time, that's how God delivered it to me. So none of it made logical sense. But I've learned from that very rarely, when you want something in your life, and you start utilizing the law of attraction and reprogramming your subconscious mind, very rarely is your path going to make sense to the outside world. People are going to look at you.
Okay.
You've lost your mind.
Yeah.
I promise you, everybody in my family felt I had lost my mind. And I became the one they all looked up to later on.
Okay.
Kevin, can I say something?
Yes, you may.
So, when you say people look at you like you've lost your mind,
Mhm.
I I wonder if it makes sense not to share, because like, for instance, one of the
Yes, don't share.
things that I
Most of the
want,
time, don't share.
one of the things that I want to see myself in is, obviously I bought a condo, but I ultimately want to have a house, and I want a house with the view, and I have like a whole idea of what house I want.
Uh-huh.
This condo is like a temp situation. I don't look at it as my final.
All right.
And I also like Porsche and all that stuff. You like cars that's
I
similar
love
to
them.
what I like.
Yeah. Yep.
And so when I'm driving, I tend to, now I try to drive like I'm in one of them, but before I would always admire them when I'm driving and I see it. I'm always like, wow, look at that car. That's my car. That's my car, But I look at it from a distance, like that's my car, instead of I'm in it driving it.
Exactly. Change.
And
Yes. Make that change.
yeah, so now I'm starting to make that shift. Listening to you, that has helped me to realize that I need to start making shift. And even though I'm gonna move into the condo, I don't know if I should start making the shift of the house that I want to move into ultimately, or do I wait till I live in my transitional place?
Well, let me
Um,
tell you this. For me, I'm still not in my dream house.
mhm. So are you?
I'm in a place that a lot of people might call their dream, but for
Mhm,
me, I'm not in my dream house yet.
mhm. So are you thinking about your dream house right now as you live in this house then, or?
Uh-huh. But and I'm okay too with progression.
Mhm,
I don't know if you were with us yesterday, but I've said it a few different times when I talk about the financial thermostat.
mhm.
You
No, I
can,
wasn't there. I wasn't
okay.
there yesterday.
Anyhow, we all kind of have a financial thermostat. In order to move on, we've got to reprogram again. And by the way, I know this sounds funny, but Bill Gates has a financial thermostat. He actually has a place that he is programmed to get to, but won't go beyond that until he programs himself again. And
How do you change that, Kevin?
exactly what I'm talking about. You decide what life is going to be like, and you
Mhm.
go live it now as if it already is like that in your imagination. And you trust that God and the universe will tell you what the steps are to get there. But you don't try and force them to tell you, and you don't try and force the steps.
Hmm.
You can't coerce God. Come on. Are you going to put a gun to his head? Right? The universe. You want to shoot at the universe, you don't think you'll get shot back? I mean, it's we don't have a lot of control over much. What we were given was our agency. We were given the opportunity to make choice of what we really want in life. But what we weren't given was the ability to make it happen by ourselves.
Hmm.
But we try to go out there and make it happen. We'll have to take some action. Don't get me wrong. We don't just sit in the lotus position. But when all is said and done, if I look at everything that's been accomplished since that point in time 15 years ago, and I look at what's manifested, and I really look at my effort versus how things actually came about and what I had to do with any of this stuff, it's a joke what I've done or not done. Most of the time when I try and do too much, I screw it up.
Hmm.
That's usually where my worst problems are, is when I try and revert back to the person I was before I learned what I really should be doing. But when I stay on the path of this is actually how it works, then I take a trip to Disneyland and I get a phone call while I'm on a ride saying, yes, I'm going to buy it. And the person buys the thing and I make $10,000 that day. I'm not saying that happens every day. Okay. I'm just telling you that I make more money having fun and goofing off than I ever did working. And it's counterintuitive until you get reprogrammed. It's counterintuitive because the world says, no, you got to work your butt off in order to. And you're going to have millionaires and billionaires tell you the same thing. Yeah, work your butt off to get to where I did. Well, okay, but there's more to it, and they miss that part of the story. You have to be programmed the way they were at the time they were doing the work they were doing to get what they've got. Because there are people out there too that will tell you that this actually comes pretty effortlessly to them, attracting money and wealth in their life, but they might struggle with something different. It's not strictly money and wealth, you know, it's anything and everything. And you have to reprogram yourself for each thing. Take any result you have in your life that is not what you want it to be, and you know there's a program running that got you there and is keeping you there. And until that program changes, you'll stay there, or you'll revert back to it. I think this is the longest I've gone.
Yeah.
So Kevin, I want to real quick, and absolutely don't want to step on toes. I want to make that caveat before that, and you're much more probably knowledgeable than me. But the gentleman was talking about wanting to, buy his property and felt inhibited because he didn't have the money. And I think it comes from just the education, whether it comes from you or some other source. It's getting out of the mindset that you need to save the money, whether he learns how to do wholesaling, whether he learns how to do subject twos, whether he learns how to do joint ventures. There's so many other ways than that traditional, I need to save up, 3.5% or 20% down. Once you get educated, I did 6 figures wholesaling a couple of years ago, and I had no money. It was sweat equity, going out, knocking on phones, doors, finding properties, and then doing joint ventures with cash buyers to kind of make the things happen. But you don't need the money, but you do need the education.
Exactly. You need the education and you need the belief. Your belief in that education and the education combined with each other allowed you to do that. The other thing I want to, and thank you for sharing that, because absolutely, I could go through all that with people very easily. But the reason I avoid it, I want to share something that you might find interesting. I'm going to share one last kind of story comment that goes along with what you said, because I want to kind of make a point here. Has anybody here heard of Michael Dell?
Oh, the Dell, the big Dell guy? Yes, absolutely.
Dell computer guy.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
All right. So I've got a cool story. It'll take me about 5 minutes maybe to share it with you. And then after that, we'll probably cut loose. Michael Dell had a desire, and I want you to think about this, Mikhail, because of how you've been trained. You know how to be a real estate investor. Michael Dell, and I can't give you the exact age. I read this book before I learned about any of this stuff. I just remember the book and him telling his story. But Michael Dell had a desire, I'm going to say somewhere pre-adulthood or early adulthood, where he decided, he was living in Texas, probably still does. I haven't followed what he's up to in a long time. But Michael Dell, you guys know Dell Computer, was extremely wealthy, probably still is, but definitely is at the top of his game during all the .com stuff and Dell Computer. But Michael Dell, before he even decided he was going to mess around with computers or whatever, he decided he wanted to own real estate. And he didn't just want to own any real estate. He wanted to own a skyscraper in downtown Dallas. He didn't have a specific one, but he wanted a skyscraper in downtown Dallas, Texas. And what he recognized of the skyscrapers in the area is they all had gigantic flagpoles at the top of their skyscraper. In Texas, they even had the big Texas flag, okay, because they're very proud of that stuff. Any of you guys here from Texas, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not from there, but so he wanted to have a skyscraper. I mean, a big building, many floors up to the top. He wanted the United States flag up on top, and he wanted the Texas flag, and that's what he wanted. I don't know why he wanted it. He made the decision because what I read didn't say specifically why he wanted it, but he wanted to be a real estate investor originally. And he ended up visualizing himself owning that building and walking to the top floor and putting up the flag. So he pictured himself acquiring the building. Now, if I went to a real estate investor, that's what they do. If I went to a Trump or somebody like, whether you like Trump or not, I'm just bringing him up because he's a known name in real estate. If I went to Trump and asked him how to get a skyscraper, Trump would probably lead, and if he was going to share that with me, he would lead me through the process that a real estate investor would take me through, which is, well, you buy this kind of, here's the loan, here's what you do, right? This is how I built my empire kind of thing. I started here and I went to here. My dad used to do these, and then I decided I wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah. And that's why I own these hotels. If you want to own a skyscraper, here's the process of investing in real estate and taking one property and 1031 it into the other and on it. And some of you guys don't know what I'm talking about, but basically tax deferring so that you can build up kind of like Monopoly, it's you buy the houses and then you turn it into the red hotel. So that's what a real estate investor would tell Michael Dell to go do. But Michael Dell didn't have those discussions with real estate investors. What Michael did is he visualized what he wanted. He wanted the building with the flag, and not just any building, but a skyscraper in downtown Dallas. Well, interestingly enough, he was then guided to get into computers, create Dell Computer, and ultimately he ended up with a skyscraper because it was the Dell building that he ended up owning. So God used the channel of Dell Computer to get Michael Dell his skyscraper with the flag. But a normal real estate investor wouldn't have, if you would ask a real estate investor for advice how to get a building like that, they wouldn't have said, go build another company, make, millions and millions of dollars, become a billionaire, and your company will grow so big that you'll have one of those towers in downtown Texas someday and you'll be able to go, raise the flag on your building. So do you guys get the principle of what I'm talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do? He did the exact same thing I'm telling you guys to do. And you or I may or may not be told to go build a computer company. If I want a skyscraper and I really truly wanted it, and that's what it was for me, God might have me take a different path to get my skyscraper. And if I got into real estate investing and was around a lot of real estate people and I asked for their advice how to get a skyscraper, they're going to use their logic and their experience, and they're going to tell me the path they took to go from, they don't all go from single family to multifamily to this, that, or the other. They might jump right into commercial. But anyhow, my point is they will tell me the path that a real estate investor normally takes to acquire a building like that. But Dell got the same result through a different method. So what do you think about that, Mikkel?
It's interesting. That's very interesting. It's wasn't the direct path, and my vision is kind of linear, but that's something to reflect on.
Yeah, that's why I keep telling everybody, decide what it is you want, and then let yourself be guided to go receive it. And that's what I had to learn. I was trying to force everything through real estate investing for several years, and I wasn't good at it. I was around people. My entrepreneur club that I ran that had 1,800 people probably had 100 people that were full-time real estate investors that were members of that I was friends with. Any one of those people could have probably taken me under their wing, and a couple of them even offered to. And I did some work with them, but I wasn't getting their results because of my programming. But I didn't want real estate. Everybody, it's like most people don't want to be part of the direct sales company. They don't want to do this, that, or the other. They want a lifestyle. And what I had to learn in my reprogramming is program myself for lifestyle, not for career.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Any last questions or comments? All right. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. And wow, there's still 9 of you with me.
Outstanding.
Pretty good for Christmas. Thank you guys so
Excellent.
much and enjoy the rest of your Christmas day or night. Thank you so much.
Good holiday, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Merry Christmas,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.